guys, it's Kimberly and welcome back to another video, or welcome to my channel if you're new. This week I wanted to talk about something that I haven't talked about before as I do in many of my videos. And for those of you who know, this here that you can see a little bit is Romeo, and Romeo is a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. He just turned 1 back in September, and we are about to have him for a year now. His gotcha date is November 10th, and I have loved every moment that I've had with him. Having him in my life has been such a huge blessing, such a huge help for my mental health and all sorts of things like that. And I don't know if I've mentioned this previously, but Romeo is my first dog that I've gotten since I moved out of my mom's house. So I've always had dogs growing up and everything, but they've always been dogs that I've had with my mom. So I've never really had my own dog until I got Romeo. So getting him last year, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I wasn't really sure what was gonna happen. I didn't really know how to be a puppy parent, but I mean, we made it through. We're at 1 year now, so obviously I'm doing something right. But because of that, I just figured today I would just give out some tips or advice I would give to new puppy parents, because it can be hard raising a puppy, especially when you don't know what you're doing when it's your first one. I know obviously like some of this advice might not apply to you. You might not need to use this. This definitely isn't all the advice you could use either. There's so many things out there that you can read, that you can watch, that can tell you how to make it easier when you're owning a puppy for the first time. And I just thought I'd throw out some of my tips that I feel are important. Okay, so the first one that I have is make sure that you have plenty of things for a puppy to chew on, such as bully sticks, such as toys, really anything that's going to divert them from your stuff. Because I know Mr. Romeo here, he used to love chewing on wires, and he actually chewed through our Christmas tree wire, and I'll show you the state of my laptop charger. So this is currently what my laptop charger looks. You can see there's lots of bites in it, and it's got electrical tape because it's been cut and rewired and stuff like that, because Mr. Romeo likes to get into things like that. So make sure you have plenty of things to divert their attention. And sometimes too, what might help is having a bitter spray. So this is the one that we used. This is a bitter spray to help deter dogs from chewing on cords. And make sure you don't get it in your own mouth, because oh my gosh, it tastes disgusting, and it took like a day to get out of my mouth. It was disgusting. But yeah, so this helps them from chewing on things. So if you notice that there's something that they really like to chew on, getting something like this and spraying it on that item can really help deter them from doing that, because they don't like the taste of it. And kind of tying into that, you want to really try and make sure that you're always keeping an eye on your puppy, especially during the first few months where they're still learning everything, until you're able to tell them what's wrong and what's right for them to be playing with, where they're okay to go, stuff like that. So you just want to make sure that you have an eye on them, make sure that they're not getting into too much trouble. And I mean, if they get out of your view for a few seconds or whatever, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's just, I know Romeo, like I said, he liked to chew on cords. He also used to love going into garbages and stuff. So it's just knowing where he is at all times. I think that's really important. So trying to keep an eye on them, but if you can't keep an eye on them, like if you're doing like business or something, sometimes it's good to crate train them, so that if you are doing something in the house where you're working from home or whatever, especially right now during the times of COVID, crate training them so that you know where they are and so that you can keep them safe. The next thing I want to mention is kind of having like a daily routine, and trying to set a daily routine right from the beginning. So that whether that be waking up and feeding right away or taking them out right away and then doing vice versa. When you're going to be playing, trying to get them times to sleep, because puppies need to sleep a lot. They really do. I think it's said that they're supposed to like sleep for like 50% of the day or more than that. Don't quote me on that. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, you need trying to set a routine for them so that they get into the habits of doing everything too. It's really recommended not to free feed dogs, because if you ever put them in a situation where there's boarding with someone, or they're just having to stay at some sort of facility where there's a lot of other dogs or there's a certain feeding time, it's really better to train them to eat all of their food at once. Romeo used to free feed, and it was really hard to kind of get him to eat all his food at once, but eventually, once we figured out like what he liked and how much he has to eat, that really helped us. So now he's much better at eating all his food at one time. We feed him once in the morning and once in the evening. As I mentioned before, puppies need a lot of sleep, so making sure that they have that time to sleep and relax and just wind down is like essential for dogs, for puppies especially, because that's still when they're learning, when they're still growing, so they need plenty of sleep. So make sure that they have the time and the opportunities to get that. Make sure that you're doing your training with your dogs. I know it's recommended that you do it for about 15 to 20 minutes at a time, like 2 or 3 times a day, every day. I wasn't the best with training Romeo, so all he knows is sit, paw, high five, and lie down. But make sure that if you are training, you're using a lot of very small treats or very low-fat treats, because you don't want your dog gaining a lot of weight because of training, because they're eating their food, they're doing training on top of that. But another alternative to that too is actually training them with their food. That way it helps you to get their food all done in one setting, so they're eating it all at one time instead of free feeding, and you're getting that training aspect in that you want to get in with your puppy. Next thing is getting your puppy used to your touch. So touching their paws, their face, their ears, their stomach, everything. This will really help you when you go to vets, and vets have to do examinations, because the vet has to touch your dog all over to make sure that everything's okay. And if your dog's not used to being touched, then they will try biting, they will try scratching. I know Romeo, it's a cavity thing to not like their paws being touched, and I feel like I probably didn't do it as much as I should have when he was younger. So he does still sometimes try to bite us when we touch his paws, but that's mostly out of playfulness, I think. He never bites us hard or anything like that, but you can tell that he doesn't want them touched, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And to kind of go along with that, you want to also try starting to groom as early as possible and as regularly as possible, including brushing their teeth, brushing their fur, bathing them, cutting their nails, because that's another thing that if you do it right from the start, they'll be used to it and they'll understand it. Romeo wasn't good at the beginning, because I mean, no, puppies generally aren't the greatest with grooming and stuff at the beginning, but as we've been doing it more and more often, he's been used to it. We used to not be able to use the hairdryer on him. He would run from us and not be happy, but now, as long as he's feeling comfortable, and usually if I'm doing it, he's totally fine with it. He'll sit there, he'll use the hairdryer, we can brush him, no problem after a bath. So it's just all about working out with the dog and really drilling it that it's okay, it's safe, and just getting them used to all those sorts of things. The next thing is you want to start socialization with other dogs and other people early, just so that they can get used to that. Romeo's been going to daycare with me right from the beginning basically, and getting that socialization. So he's really good with other dogs. Generally when we walk down the street, if he sees another dog, he won't bark or anything, which is really nice. He gets along with dogs, he'll play with dogs and all that stuff. But I know dogs that don't get socialization and then they're super skittish, or they don't get along with other dogs, or they have bad socialization aspects, and those kind of contribute to not so great behavior in the future. So you really want to make sure that you're getting your dog socialization, but making sure that it's the right socialization, just so that they're not getting scared, so then in the future that they do want to be around other dogs, and in case in the future you want to get another dog, you want to make sure that your first dog is going to get along with the second one. I know we really want to get Romeo a sister at some point, so if he wasn't good with dogs, then that would be a huge problem. we would have to try and get him socialized, but it can be really hard if you're introducing a second dog and the first dog doesn't want to socialize kind of thing. My next tip is that frozen treats and frozen washcloths and stuff are going to be your best friend during teething. When their gums are all sore because all their teeth are coming in, you're going to want to do something like that. Frozen treats, frozen Kongs, frozen whatever is great because it helps relieve the inflammation and makes them not hurt as much when they're coming through. You know how you put cold on hurting stuff to numb it, to make it feel a bit better? It's the same with puppy's teeth. You want to make sure that it's not going to be comfortable for them no matter what, but doing that really will help with the teething process and making your dog not feel as in pain and as uncomfortable when their teeth are coming in. The next one I want to say, and I do recommend this, my dog luckily already came with this, and that's getting your dog microchipped. Just in case, God forbid, your dog does get away, if they have a microchip with your information, it's so much easier for your dog to be returned with you. And no one wants to lose their dog, especially if that's something that you've really been wanting for a long time. You don't want to lose your dog. Romeo is microchipped. He actually came microchipped from the breeder when we got him, so that was a good aspect. I was really happy about that. I would have gotten him microchipped anyways because it's usually not too expensive, and generally if you get it done while they're being spayed or neutered anyways, it's not an issue because they don't have to put them under or anything because they're already under. So I really recommend getting them microchipped just so then you have that peace of mind in case they do unfortunately get out somehow. The next thing is you do want to practice separation with your dog. Romeo's pretty good. We don't have to leave him very often, but the times that we do, we can easily put him in his crate and he won't have any issues with it. We actually used to have a camera just to watch and see what he would do because we were very curious, and he would just lie down. So practicing that separation at the beginning really helps make it easier in the future if you have to go to work, if you have to go to school, if you have to go get groceries, whatever it is. Because you don't want your dog to be totally reliant on you. And I know that's been a really hard thing during COVID because so many people have been home with their dogs so much, and especially people who are getting new puppies during this time, that it's important to practice this separation so then when life goes back to the way it was before, you're working, you're in school, you're doing whatever, they're not getting as anxious when you leave. And kind of tying in with that too, you don't want to like overhype your goodbyes. Like you don't want to be like, oh goodbye my baby, I love you so much, like I'll be home soon. You don't want to do that because that really can give your dog anxiety. Talking in that high voice, it hypes your dogs up. And you don't want to be doing that when you're saying goodbye because it can really cause anxiety in your dogs and trigger them. And you just want them to know that you love them, yeah, but you don't want to make a huge deal of the goodbyes. What I do is I say goodbye to Romeo. I'll be like, okay baby, I'm going now, I'll be home later. I then take treats, I put them into his crate, he goes gets them, I close the crate behind him, and I leave. I don't make a huge scene of it, I don't make a huge deal of it, I don't even let him acknowledge that I'm leaving. And when we used to watch the cameras, literally 5 minutes later he would be passed out because we've been practicing that separation. And I mean, it also helped when I used to work at a dog daycare. I would bring him with me, so he wouldn't be with me the whole day because I would be in a different part of the building than he was. So he wasn't with me and he wasn't with my boyfriend either. So he was used to being not on his own, but without us. So it made that separation aspect a lot easier. The next thing I want to mention is leash training. You want to really do leash training right from the beginning. Romeo's not the greatest walker, but he's definitely better than some dogs that I see on the streets. He's not one that pulls or anything like that. I think he's really learned that he wants to walk beside mom, but we also didn't let him pull or anything from the beginning. He does still sometimes kind of walk around us. He's not the perfect heel or anything like that, but you really want to make sure that you're practicing on a leash, just because if you're always letting them into the backyard or run around at dog parks, or those are your only ways of kind of like taking them out, they won't learn how to properly walk. So that if you ever need a dog walker or a boarder or daycare or whatever, they're going to have a lot of troubles walking your dog. And you really want to make it easier for you, yeah, when you're walking your dog, but also for other people that might have to work with your dog in the future, you know? So really practicing that leash training and not letting them pull. A good way of doing that is keeping treats in your pocket, making sure that they're walking properly, not up on their hind legs, and that's a really good way of kind of practicing that. And the last tip that I want to give is make sure that you take lots of pictures and have lots of fun with your puppy. And this is because you will not realize how fast your dog grows. I look at pictures of Romeo from the beginning to now, and it's just crazy to see how much he's grown, how much he's changed. I actually took pictures of him every single month with a board saying how old he was that month, and that's a good way to kind of like see how much he's grown between each picture. And I have an Instagram account, as I've mentioned before, for him, and that also kind of shows me how much he's grown because I post a daily picture every day. So it's really, you want to make sure that you're taking lots of pictures because you'll never realize how much you'll look back on those pictures and just remember all the memories, remember how small they were, and all that good stuff. And make sure you have lots of fun with them. Make sure you're loving them because there's no greater gift than the love of a dog. And I say that as someone who loves dogs very much, has her own dog who I think he loves me very much. Hey, what do you think? He's disinterested. He's confused. But yeah, those are all my tips that I have for new puppy parents. If any of you have any other tips, feel free to leave them below. I love learning new things. Even now that Romeo's a year old and we've had him for almost a year, I still love learning new things and new things to do with him and how to train him better and all those sorts of stuff. I'm not a professional, I will say that. I don't claim to be a professional. These are just things that I think help when it comes to getting a new puppy, training a new puppy, all those sorts of things. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that this video helps someone and that you have so much fun with your new puppy. And make sure you subscribe to me if you'd like to see more content from me. I'm trying to post more often again because I enjoy it, I love it. Most of the time it's just for me because I don't know who's going to watch my videos, but it's fun. But yeah, until next time guys. Bye.